Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur from Israel, Mr. Shay Senior. Shay, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Shay is a social entrepreneur. He's an inclusive design thinker, and he's the founder of Palta, and I hope I have the pronunciation right. He has a background in unmanned vehicles industry, so quite a diverse set of experiences you have, Shay. But let's start by talking about Palta. Tell me about this venture and what was your motivation to start it?
So back in 2017, I had a hand injury, and after the surgery, I couldn't move my right arm at all. Until then, as you mentioned, I was working in the unmanned vehicles industry. That's what I was practicing in my military service. Afterwards, gaining more experience and traveling around the world, implementing and consulting, all related to unmanned vehicles, to international and national organizations. And suddenly, from a situation that I'm very independent, experiencing the world, getting to know new cultures, and being a very young individual in this planet, I was not independent to do such a simple thing like dressing up. And at that point in the rehabilitation center, I started asking myself, how is it possible that from one day to another, I'm not able to do very basic actions like dressing up? And why or how can it be that people with disabilities for so many years didn't raise their hand or take action for changing the situation or the status quo? And that's where I start questioning, researching about the topic of fashion, people with disabilities, fashion and psychology. I was feeling very much that since I'm not dressing anymore like I used to before joining to meetings in work, people would look at me differently. And getting to read a book that is called Psychology of Fashion, written by Professor Caroline Meyer, basically made this click and the understanding for me how fashion can and should be a main thing, reducing the gap between people with disabilities and the rest of society.
How fascinating. How fascinating. So, when you speak about inclusive design, I'm assuming you mean people with disabilities can use it, but give me an example of how you are making a difference.
So I will give an example, actually not from the fashion world. First of all, inclusive design and universal design, it's the same thing, but a different name. In the UK, it will be called inclusive design, and in the United States, universal design. But at the end, the idea is to focus on the needs of extreme groups. And after solving such a problem, to translate it into a product that fits a wider range of individuals, which means in the aspect of social responsibility, that you're offering something that is for a wider range, and as a business opportunity that potentially you would be able to earn more. A company called OXO, which creates tools and materials for cooking, was, I think, the first and the greatest example of how a product that is developed for the needs of people with disabilities becomes a bestseller in Amazon. OXO owner was watching his wife having a hard time peeling potatoes and working with a peeler in the kitchen. And he brought up a group of designers and said, I want all you men and women to find a solution for how my wife would be able to peel potatoes without getting cut, with having a good grip. And that became a methodology that every product that is developed in OXO is based first on the needs of people with a limit in dexterity limitations, motorical limitations.
Yeah.
That proved as something that at the end works better for all of us. Now, when we talk about fashion, or more specifically clothing, we all have different styles. We come from different cultures. Clothes mean different things for us. There are people that have tribal aspects in their clothes, but we all want to feel comfortable and
good,
similar to our surroundings.
Correct.
As much as alternative we would like to be and unique with what we wear, we don't want to be different. And thinking about this topic and reading about how inclusive design takes place in other industries like architecture and product design, I was looking at the questionnaires and information that during the years I was collecting from individuals with disabilities related to clothes. And suddenly, when I look at a big in a big perspective about the answers of people and what are the real challenges in front of the wardrobe, I realized that as a group, we have much more similarities than differences. But if we look at people as individuals, we always think, oh, that group of people with disabilities is very wide. How can I do something that fit them all? And at that point, we start to develop a methodology of how it's possible that we can understand and learn from the needs of people with different kinds of daily challenges and translate it into one product or the minimal amount of product that would fit the widest range of individuals. That's the meaning and the goal of inclusive design in all areas.
Fascinating. And when you are talking about certification of, that obviously means to build standards. How are you building standards in the segment that you're in for people with disabilities?
So I feel the need of certification was something that I was getting as a feedback from the community. And that was something that I've realized would be probably the best way to create loyalty and trust between the community of people with disabilities with fashion brands, a voice of the biggest minority in the world, 1.2 billion people and growing, and actually a social proof on products that we buy. Today, most of the certificates that we have in our lives are either national organizations or international organizations that are not always built from individuals that are the end users of that product, but they are the ones who decide if this product would work or not work for us. And what we brought as an idea, is what leads Palta, is the community and the power of the community to define what are the parameters that make such a product fit the needs of our community. These are the parameters that we classify by or verify a product to receive our certification. Now, I was mentioning it before, the community of people with disabilities is a wide range, but in the past years and during our research process, we realized that the funnel can get down into three main needs or three main pillars. It's the fit. So we all have different body types, and we would like something to fit well on our body. If it's in the fabric, in the color, and so on. The dexterity. Each one of us have different abilities with his arms, legs, and sensory. So if we have intellectual limitations or we are blind, sensory issues will be more relevant. Getting these three pillars to be in place and to exist in a product raises very much the probability that you will be able to sell it to a wider range of individuals, and not only people with disabilities are customers of inclusive design. At the end, we all benefit from that happening.
Fascinating, fascinating. And when you look at a design, what are you seeking to achieve with every design creation?
So I feel that we're trying to keep, on one hand, the designs very simple. At the end, there were not so many fashion brands around the world. If there was one garment that fits all. And I think that's the uniqueness of our world, that each person could find himself as part of a community, as part of a group, a brand that represents his thoughts, his opinions, his religion, and so on. And by the creations of these designs, we're trying to bring basically a solution for a need of very niche group to become the thing that leverages a mainstream brand to scale up, to be positioned in a better place, not because they're only doing a thing. Always I've seen the treatment and the relation to people with disabilities is something of kindness, mercy. Everything is related to donations, and there is a very big potential, like business potential, in the community of people with disabilities. It's I'm going to repeat a lot the number 3.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely
in our conversation, but there are 3 groups that will be influenced and will potentially buy a product from a brand that works in that methodology. It's the people with disabilities themselves, the allies, which are the people that are around them, family, friends, and the third group are people that buy value. 67% of individuals that were part of a survey in a national survey in the United States would prefer to buy from a brand that has a strong agenda, that is doing something for a specific group, and it's not necessarily a group that you need to be part of. But we're going more and more.
Are you beginning to see, Shay, the big brands also beginning to understand the needs of people with disabilities? Because you said it's 1.2 billion people, which is 1 out of 7 human beings on earth.
Definitely, yes. Nike is doing it in shoes. Tommy Hilfiger was the first to do it in kids collection. Brands are contacting us to better understand what's their path to inclusivity. And I don't know if to tell that COVID was the change that suddenly everybody became limited.
Okay.
Yeah, like limited with buying in shops, and then the online experience had to change and advance very much. And a lot of people with disabilities were living that way even before COVID. Like they couldn't leave their houses because of accessibility, and suddenly everybody is experiencing that the lack of accessibility and comfort in online shopping. And that's something that I feel that, you know, raised a lot of awareness.
Well said. Well said.
I can tell that now, saying inclusive design, I don't have to explain too much for the design teams or whoever contacted us from a fashion brand. That's a big applause for the industry. Also, that people shared their lack of knowledge. Before it was a shame or a fright to talk about this topic, because people were afraid to share what they don't know.
Correct.
I think that from a personal view about what we were able to do in the past years, and it's not Palta alone, but I feel that it's the community, and we are raising awareness to people to even understand. You know, for so many years, people were living with a status quo, with a certain with certain limitations, with what they can wear and what shops they can buy. And when starting the conversations and really getting involved with communities worldwide, I've realized that, you know, it's kind of poking the bear and making people to wake up about their lives and to realize that things can be different.
Correct.
Can be different for them, can be different for others. And I feel that when we're doing something that is, you know, it fills us with happiness, and we are proud with our work. And of course, at the end, it provides someone else a better life, a better feeling.
Very good. Wonderful. So, you know, when I was reading about you, you were also selected to design the Israel Paralympics team clothes and products. Tell me about this experience and what were your challenges?
So, continuing the sentence that I that I just said before, getting involved and in personal relation with people from the community also brings a lot of activities and actions. People want you to take action. What brought us to design the clothes were basically the athletes. They said, there's a company here that understands our needs. They bring innovation into fashion. They are presenting a new way to create our clothes, and we want them in. Actually, that was for us the major case study to be able to start and pushing Palta forward in the fashion industry, because that was the first time we were able to show actually on a big group of individuals our ability and what's the benefit when you design for a wider range of individuals. In that case, there were 100 participants in the delegation, 34 from them with disabilities, all different kinds of disabilities. And from the first moment, we knew that what we want to create is one outfit that fits all, or if not all, so the highest amount of individuals. that's more sustainable, that makes people feel part of a team and not that everything is customized to their needs. And that's much more cost effective if we look at it in the business aspect. Saying that, we were looking to keep it as simple as possible. At the end, being realistic, we need to keep things in a frame of price that people would be able to buy it, that brands will be able to pay it, and that was something that we were challenged. As you know, that in design, always there would be people that like it more or like it less, but something that we wanted to be very clear is the three pillars that I talked about before, that it would fit their bodies, that everybody would be able with their different dexterity limitations to put on these clothes independently, and that no one will feel anything that limits them sensorily. About the colors and the appearance of it, we were thinking about it of something that would represent our country and a group that goes and is proud in what they wear.
Wonderful.
Designers could say it
looks good.
It's a little bit too colorful. It's a little bit too clear, but the end result was perfect, and that's really something that serves us now in conversations with other delegations, other fashion brands that are willing to learn how to implement that methodology in their collection or creating clothes for the next game in Paris.
Wonderful. So I've got time for one more question. And this question is for the many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your incredible journey, from an unmanned vehicles expert to an inclusive design thinker, Shay, what would you say are 3 lessons you want our viewers to take away?
The first one I would say is get to hear everything people have to say. Attach to your journey the things that you feel are the strongest fitting to your attitude. We can read books about individuals' journey, but we're in a different country, we're in different times, we're in different way of living.
Correct.
And we need to carefully select what works for us. Another lesson is to do mistakes. I'm proud of the mistakes that I've done, and that I was able to do mistakes in my journey and in my process, to meet sometimes people that I didn't agree on what they were saying or how they were feeling about the results, but I've learned from it a lot. To learn from our mistakes,
right?
It's something crucial. And the third is to go with our dreams. It's a very strong and known cliche, but we're always able to go to the comfort zone, to areas that make us feel comfortable, that there are no doubts about what we're doing, that the bills are paid, and that we are able to live a very balanced life. But if we're willing to be entrepreneurs that are changing people's lives, that are changing the way this world reacts to changes in the conversation we have between individuals across countries, we have to dedicate a lot of time and energy for that dream.
Wonderful.
There are ups and downs, and if I can add one more thing, is also to have a strong a strong circle around you.
Mm-hmm.
People that you feel comfortable to share with your questions, your feelings. That's something very important for an entrepreneur, that sometimes people don't really have a circle of individuals that he or she can trust and share what they're living at the moment. And that's something that I think it's an important lesson.
Thank you. No, that's fantastic. And I'm afraid we've run out of time. But on that note, Shay, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for telling me about your amazing 4 lessons, which is listen to everything, make mistakes and learn from your mistakes, follow your dreams, and build a strong network of people around you. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for the amazing work you're doing to be able to support so many people who have some kind of disability or the other. And good luck in everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much, and have a great time.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.